Hi, y'all. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine. I wanted to touch base with you all and add some more clarity on the SLA project. I know that it's challenging to read through an instructor's assignment and try to make sense of it, and there's always that feeling of, well, what do they want? And because I've left it really open, I think that's leading some of you reasonably to feel a little like uncertain. So I just want to start by saying you can't do this wrong. I really do want you to take your own approach on this, okay? The first three drafts that you're going to do, I'm just giving you points for giving it your best go, not for doing it right. And I really mean it when I say that this could look a lot of different ways, and you have the freedom to be creative with it. And ultimately, I want you to create something that's going to help you make sense of these different theories and remember them and use them. So with that said, let me add on a little more of hopefully some better scaffolding of what each step is going to include. So you're not going to end up today with like this giant organizer that has 30 boxes on it and lots of beautiful arrows. That's where you're going to end up by the end of this month. And so for today, you're just going to be starting small. All right, so I've redone the page. I've added a lot. Well, I've tried to cut out stuff that seemed confusing and add in some better stuff. So let's go first to modules. Maybe. Okay. So this is the instruction page. All right, what I've done is I've adjusted the due dates and I've tried to spread them out so that it's a little more clear what to do when. So right now you're working on draft 1 and you're working on that today, and oops, I found something I didn't fix. I have changed this due date to tomorrow, Saturday at midnight, okay? Just to give you a little more time if you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed with this project. Just take another day if you need it to get your ideas down. It's going to be super drafty draft, and I'm going to show you below what that means. I've also gotten rid of the next draft you were going to do for Monday and the reading you were going to do for Monday. I think on second thought, that was just too much to have you look at first language acquisition this week and then start looking at second language acquisition over the weekend. So you have no homework this weekend. Just use that time to, if you want, tomorrow, Saturday, to keep doing more work on your first draft. Play around with Lucidchart if that's what you're using and learn how to work with it. And give each other some feedback, okay, on their drafts. The second draft you'll work on next week, and that's where you're going to start playing with the ideas of second language acquisition. And you'll submit that draft a week from today on Friday. And then same thing, give your colleagues some feedback on it over the weekend. Third draft. And so far, your grade from me is just completion. I'm going to look at it, give you some feedback, but you're not getting a grade on if it's right or wrong. Draft 3 is where you're really pulling it together. By the time you get to draft 3, you'll have read about first and second language acquisition. These connections that I'm telling you to make, you'll actually know what they are. Like right now, I'm just telling you that you're going to make them so you can visualize a little bit the final project, but you may not know what those are yet, right? Because you haven't read all the material. So by the time you get to draft 3, you're going to have such a better sense of what this can look like. And that's where your draft is going to start to look more like a finished product. I'm still not giving you a grade on it, other than you did it. But you're going to be giving each other feedback, and I'm going to give you feedback on that draft so that it's ready when you turn it in the final draft, that now I can look at it for accuracy. Did you understand these theories? Did you connect them in a way that makes sense, right? So that's where we're going, and we have some steps along the way. I got rid of one more draft that was in there because it was just superfluous. 3 is plenty. Okay, the big goal has not changed. This is by the end of the project, this is what you want to look back and say, okay, Does my graphic organizer help me understand answers to these questions? Okay? You don't even, maybe don't think about these yet. Okay? Final product is still the same, and your freedom to do it on paper or digitally is the same. And you might start on one and move to the other. That's totally cool. Like right now, sticky notes might be the best way to start. And you can just think of each theory as its own discrete sticky note. And right now, I don't even need to know how they're connected. I'm just going to get my understanding of this on a sticky note, my understanding of that on a sticky note. That's totally fine for now. Okay, all of this is the same. Overall framework. So here's how to think about this. These are your big umbrellas. So the theories, and there are many, that explain how children learn language can fit into three big piles: the behaviorist pile, the innatist pile, and the interactionist or developmentalist pile. Under each pile, you can subdivide. The same is true for second or additional language acquisition. You can divide it into 4 piles. Notice how 2 of these piles overlap. So the behaviorist perspective has influenced theories of both. The innatist perspective has influenced theories of both. So you will see overlaps, and that's where eventually you're going to have some arrows connecting those eventually. Okay, and this is the part that I added that I hoped would make more, would help you make more sense of what you need to do now for the very first draft and what you need to do for the second draft, okay? So you have a sense of expectations. The first draft, it's gonna look really incomplete. You're gonna have boxes or sticky notes, but they're probably not connected yet. They might be, that's great, but they don't need to be. You can't do it wrong. This is a completion grade. You'll get full points for giving it your best go. These are a list of more specific theories, perspectives, concepts that you want to include and will help you to make sense of this. So you could think of this now as, I'm going to make a sticky note for each of these. I'm going to make one for behaviorist perspectives, one for innatist perspectives, one for universal grammar. And I think what you'll start to see is that some of these fit with other ones, okay? And the same for the people. You'll see, oh, well, Skinner goes with this theory. Chomsky goes with this theory. But right now, they can just be discrete sticky notes. And I'm going to scroll down to show you what they're going to look like. So this is a great example. And I blurred it out because, you know, I don't want you to get an idea in your head of it has to look this way, because I really do want you to do it in a way that will make sense to you. So notice how they took this idea, negotiation for meaning. So they wrote it here, and then they wrote a little bit below it to explain so they could remember what negotiation for meaning actually is. That's a great example of where you ought to be right now. Being able to write down the term, what it means, but you're not going to have arrows yet. You may not have, like this one, they did some really nice color coding and shading. You don't need to be there yet. But this is an example of what a square, a text box, or a Post-it note might look like. All right, let me zoom back up. So that's what you're doing right now with draft 1. Draft 2, you're going to essentially do the same thing, except you're going to be reading a new chapter, and it's going to be about second language acquisition. At that point, you're going to probably have a whole page full of these text boxes or sticky notes. You might start connecting some of them, but you might not yet. And again, it's just a completion grade, okay? And here are the ideas that I expect you'll be adding at that point, okay? You might see others, but these are the big ones. Notice that they're not lined up horizontally, okay? It's not, like some of them are long, and the interaction hypothesis you'll see is that's who came up with it. But others of these don't match. So it's more I just made 2 columns, okay? It's up to you to figure out who matches with who. Draft 3, it's still a completion grade, But at this point, you want to be really thinking now, how does it come together? This is where you're going to be adding arrows, maybe changing some of your color coding to make it clear what's first language acquisition, what's second language acquisition, which ideas are related across both, okay? This is the point at which you want to come back up to, where did it go? The big goal questions. This is where you want to revisit these main ideas that you want to get at that are more about comparison, right? Now that you've got both, now you want to think, how do they compare? You will get feedback on all of these from your colleagues, and I'll be jumping in some to give you feedback as well. Then you're going to use that to have your final draft ready to turn into me, and that's what you're going to submit right here on the assignment page, okay? And at that point, now I am looking for detail and accuracy and connection points, okay? But you're going to be getting feedback before then, and in the next few days, I'm going to finalize the rubric so that you also can see what it is that I'm looking for, okay? But you're all going to end up with slightly different ones. And that's what I love about this assignment, is because then as you show them to each other, it's going to help you, I think, to see different ways of viewing how these theories connect. And ultimately, the whole point of this is then to inform your teaching. So like I've said before, not all of these theories actually still hold up. Some of these are historical, though you'll see evidence of them in schools across the country. And so that's why we're even bothering with looking at a little bit of the history of it. So you can see how some of these old disproven theories still impact textbook design and curriculum design in schools. All right, the rest of this is the same, going through some examples, and then the connection to Lucid chart if you want to use that, okay? All right, I hope that this will provide some help, and keep reaching out to me if it doesn't. All right, thanks y'all.